In today's episode, we're going to be reacting to some of the strangest and most bizarre videos I've found on TikTok. Let's get into it.
Whatever you do, do not watch this video at night. Trust me, I mean it. I have seen a photo similar to this going around of the craziest unsolved mysteries, but there are some that aren't even on here that are 10 times worse. Of course, in this, we're going to be going from the top to the darkest. Some of you have probably seen this film, The Strangers. Some of you may have seen this. I don't know what the hell that is, but some of you might have done. But what if I told you both of those films are actually true and based on this right here? An April morning in Keddie in 1981, everything would change. Sue Sharp was in an abusive relationship and took her 5 kids away to get away from this guy. To this place called the Keddie Resort, which I know doesn't exactly look amazing. One night, the teenage daughter Sheila had actually gone next door to stay with a friend. When she returned home the following morning, it wasn't good. Only Sheila had gone out. The rest of the family were in the house the night before, and one of the boys also brought one of his friends over for the night. Now, when Sheila returned home that morning, she found her mum, her brother, and her brother's friend unalived on the floor brutally. I can't show much or go into detail, but go to my YouTube link in bio. The younger sister was also missing, but nowhere in the house, and there was no signs of forced entry. The 2 other young boys were just asleep in their beds. The case went crazy, people going, what the hell happened to this family? But after a while went pretty much cold. Until a neighbour actually came forward and said he had spotted the young girl who went missing, leaving the house that night and being taken by a man forcefully. Not long later, just miles from the camp, her body was recovered. These are some drawings that people put together of who they apparently saw that night. Many people believe it could have been the ex-husband who was basically extremely angry about them leaving him, but the case still to this day remains pretty much unsolved.
Man, that's pretty bizarre. It's a shame that the family had to go through that and suffer that trauma. There's just some really messed up people out there. You never know who you can trust, and you never know where you're truly safe. So be careful out there.
You remember how I told you that me and hundreds of other people saw a black spot appear in the middle of the moon? I finally caught it on camera, and I'll show you here in a second, okay? Now, I took a video, and the video was only 10 seconds long, but in the middle of the video, I screenshotted where you can clearly see it. It only happened for about 5 seconds. But I kept trying to tell people something appeared in the moon, and it just spread out into a giant black circle in the middle of the moon. Okay. Nothing crossed over in front of the moon, which so many people keep talking about. I have no idea why you keep talking about that. It literally spread out in the middle of the moon. And this time I went away from city pollution so I can actually get a clear photo, if I was going to get a photo. And look what I got. What's that gonna look like? There's no glare on my camera, people. There's no other lights around me, okay? This is in the middle of the motherwoods. Tell me what that looks like. There's barely any clouds around, by the way, people. I mean, literally, somebody tell me what that is. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It literally just opened up once again in the middle of the moon. This is why I've been trying to tell everybody, just focus on the moon and please try to see it. And if you do see it, tell me if you saw it. Which, by the way, like I mentioned, hundreds of other people are seeing the same exact thing. So I'm not being crazy. This is literally confirming so many theories of the moon for me. And I've seen it on 3 separate occasions the past 3 nights.
Whew, dang. Oh. I don't mind foul language. It's not really my personal thing that I enjoy doing, but man, that was just riddled with a whole bunch of F-bombs. I may have to edit half of that out because that was just a lot. I wanted to see his follow-up video or photo, and I think it's pretty interesting. He did at least capture something, but man, I almost could not get over the language in it. But for the black spot that he did capture on the photo, I do see it in the center of the moon. I'm not entirely certain what it could be. If anyone out there has any idea, leave a comment down below letting me know, because I really have nothing on this one. You know, that's actually a really good point that I never really thought of.
I ended up getting abducted, right?
Whoa.
Physically abducted by interdimensionals, which totally blew the lid off of my reality and led me into that questioning. Okay, great. They are here. They are interacting with us. So who are they? What do they want? And how can they either benefit us or detriment us? So the beings who took me were not great. You know, they weren't all full of love and light, but I know that I needed to have that sort of negative experience with extraterrestrials to once again realize that there are good and bad. And it was a couple of months after that negative abduction experience where I was greeted by a Pleiadian being. And he said that there's this organization called the Galactic Federation of Light, and that I'm a part of it, and that they have information, not just for me, but for humanity.
That just sounds like an amazing opportunity. I don't know, this story sounds really hard to believe. Stories you want to believe, but they're just so hard to believe, you know? Hey, if you're enjoying the video and you haven't done so already, go ahead and give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. For everyone that's currently watching and or subscribed, thank you for watching, and thank you for being subscribed. I would also like to give a special shout out to all of my current active members that are supporting my channel. So to everyone that you see on the screen right now, thank you so much for supporting the channel. And for anyone that's interested in becoming a member to further support the channel, it is 99 cents a month. And with that, it includes emojis that you can use in the video's comments, and when I live stream, you can use them in the comments in that as well. Also, a benefit of being a member, when I upload a video, they are normally scheduled to come out at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but as a member, when I upload them, they do not go through a scheduled process. They just immediately become available for you to watch. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, I cannot thank you enough for supporting the channel in that way. So thank you.
Light itself was able to cast a shadow in this bizarre laser experiment. And I know that sounds paradoxical because a shadow by definition is the opposite of that. It's blocking light from hitting a surface. So it wouldn't make sense that light can cast a shadow because it's the opposite of a shadow. I haven't said shadow this many times since I played Shadow the Hedgehog on Nintendo GameCube. But I gotta tell you, this article is even spookier than Shadow the Hedgehog. What you're looking at here, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up and zoom way, way, way in. The shadow that we're talking about in this entire experiment is this little line that goes across the top, this little top third, top quarter bar. That is a shadow made out of light, and it's mind-blowing that you can even observe it with the naked eye and not just some complicated apparatus in a physics department somewhere. So let's try to explain what in the world is going on here. So to create this shadow, the team shined a high-powered green laser through a cone made of ruby, which you can see down here, that was then lit up on one side by a blue laser so that the green light ends up blocking some of the blue light, projecting it out onto a screen. And as you can see in the diagram here, we have the ruby that will change the colors. We have the illumination laser going in this way. I believe that is the blue one here on the testing apparatus on the right. And then we have, interestingly, this is the hardest part to see, so I'm going to zoom in on this. And these little ellipses here are just points of contact where the green laser hits the crystal to give you an idea of a sense of scale, because we're kind of doing this on 3D. But it's a little slit of light, and you can see that this green light going through the ruby, interacting with the blue light, is actually creating this little slit shadow. That is the thickness of the light that's being broadcast to it, as you can see here in this image, which I should probably zoom back in on again. That is the thickness of the broadcast beam. One of the interesting things about this study is that the laser shadow effect requires a ruby to mediate this blockage, which raises the question of whether the photons in the object laser themselves are blocking the illuminating light, or rather if it's atoms, i.e. excited atoms, in the ruby. Because as we all know, photons have no mass. So something with no mass should not be able to block light, and it should not be able to create a shadow. However, that happened here, so they're wondering if what happened is that as light passes through material, sometimes couples to its atoms, creating quasi-particles called polaritons, which I'm not even going to try to get into today. But the team admits that it's most likely technically these polaritrons, which do have mass and can block light. I mean, if you have mass, you can block light, right? That are casting the shadow. But on the other hand, polaritrons are still half photons, and the shadow couldn't or shouldn't be cast with other photons, because even half photons, like polaritons, don't normally interact with other photons. So I've talked a lot of crazy stuff, just totally rambling here. It is a bizarre experiment, and even the scientists themselves don't understand it fully. I just thought you might find it interesting.
It's really a fascinating subject. Maybe in the future they'll be able to do anti-flashlights where it'll absorb light instead of give light. I could see something like that happening, maybe.
Listen up, I want you guys to really think about this for a second. Where is Elon Musk getting all this information to come out with these crazy technological advancements? I mean, he can't be hiring people to give him this kind of information and these technological breakthroughs, right? Because he's the only one that's doing this kind of stuff, right? Okay, stay with me now. He's been exploring the deepest depths of the ocean, right? And now we're hearing the truth of aliens not coming from outer space, but the depths of the ocean, right? Are you starting to see where I'm going with this? Could it be that he's getting his breakthrough technology from these interdimensional beings from the deepest parts of the ocean?
I have been seeing so many of these Elon Musks as an alien, or Elon Musk is getting technology from alien or interdimensional species. But with that being said, what do you guys think about Elon Musk? Do you think that he's inventing technology for evil? Do you think that he may be evil? Some people out there say he potentially could be a fallen angel. I don't know if I necessarily believe all that, but I do really like to hear people's opinions about Elon Musk.
Have you heard stories of the white Sasquatch, the white Bigfoot? And we're not talking abominable snowman or Yeti like in Russia or Siberia, but a white Bigfoot that has been seen and told about here in the United States, in Alaska and the PNW. A lot of the tribes still have stories about these white Bigfoot. Well, take a look at this footage. This comes from an unidentified man who was out in the middle of the woods looking for Bigfoot. And he thinks he captured the mythical white Bigfoot on film. But is it really? Or is this maybe a trick of the eye, a trick of the brain? Or is this something else? Take a look at this footage and tell me what you think.
Seriously? Hi, my friend. Holy shit. He's standing above the bushes. He, she, whatever. Look how tall that is. Yo, it's white. It's white. It looks like its eyes are like hologram. You see how dark its eyes are? Yo, this is scary to an extent. I don't usually see white ones like that. I mean, honestly, it could just be a bad case of pareidolia, or maybe even an owl at that. But really, I do not think that that's a Bigfoot of any kind. Let me know what you guys think that was.
Hey, we did see a big
There's a lot of people in the comments saying that that could be the brake pads of the crane, and that's a very good possibility. But there's a lot of videos of this user of these cargo containers of what sounds to be like people screaming inside of them. Definitely need to do some investigation on this. I don't think that it's necessarily the brakes of the crane personally. Let me know what you guys think.
So this is that footage that you're talking about of the giant squid in the Japanese wharf with the divers. You can see the divers down beneath it. And when I originally saw this footage, I assumed that this squid was already deceased because there's really no reason for it to be at the surface. Apparently it was barely alive when they filmed this. There's no other reason that it would be this close to the surface, as they live way down in the depths. And you can see that it doesn't look good. But yes, this is the footage I believe that you're referring to. And again, this squid is clearly already on his way out, or her way out. Man, that thing's massive and this looking. One isn't even that large. That's the thing, is that they get so much bigger than this. And naturally, they are very shy and solitary creatures, and they live at such depths that we just haven't been able to capture one on film that isn't sick or already died.
Those things are so massive. If there's a whole bunch of them in the bottom of the ocean, I wonder what they eat, or what even eats them.
So what you're looking at right now is a small robot trying to convince larger robots to leave with it. Yeah, so it was an experiment. So this wasn't like an actual heist, but they wanted to see if it would actually happen. So in Zhejiang, China, they sent this tiny little robot in to convince the bigger ones to leave their positions at work. Do you have a home? Do you want to come to mine? Yeah, okay. And so they did. So, yeah, they were LARPing Wally. As cute as this is, it's actually terrifying, but I don't even know what to say.
It's funny now until they unionize and start a mutiny, because the simple fact for them to be able to decide whether they want to follow something because it says that they can go home with it, eventually they're just not going to want to work. And then it's just pointless to have the robots in general.
Known locally as the Ghost Bridge, neighbors say it dates back to the 1800s and is usually submerged but now fully exposed. A rare sight in North Jersey and an even rarer photo to snap.
We always ride past this reservoir. We didn't even know that a bridge existed.
I'd always look for this bridge because I knew it was there, but usually it's covered with water.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. And is it sad to say that that bridge looks like it's built better than any bridge built today? Anyone from the New Jersey area familiar with this? Let me know in the comments. It's pretty neat.
Dude, are y'all seeing these clouds behind me right here, man? So look at this right here. This one, look at that. Just a nice little cloud, right? Here's another condensation trail that come by about 30 minutes ago. And look how it's all spread out. But then you got these right here that are disappearing. Sure makes you wonder, huh? Look at those little squiggly lines right there. That's weird, dude. So look, we got an X right there. And we got an X right here too. Oh wait, looky there. So those are disappearing. That one's not, has any condensation. Just kind of weird, isn't it, man? Look right there. Look at that. Come on, man. Look at that right there. Look how it curves. Look at that. And so this is one earlier that went by on the top about an hour ago. Why is it still there? Dude, look at the little... Wait.
Man, it's a shame that the chemtrails are so thick in my area. It's almost impossible to look up into the sky and not see chemtrail lines.
Even Microsoft Notepad is about to get an AI text editing upgrade, and I almost can't believe this is real because Notepad, which I opened up on the screen here, hasn't really changed very much since it's launched in 1983. It's just something that you would use to take quick notes, write down a few numbers, keep track of what you're going to do for that day. I've got a little to-do list here on mine, and I didn't think that this was something that needed generative AI or the resource-intensive processes that come with it, but they're also doing it with Paint. Now, the Paint one is very interesting. The Notepad one, I feel like is basically a way to plagiarize or way to rewrite your content, but I don't know why it would be necessary to do a Notepad, where basically you can highlight something and have it rephrase the current sentence so that it can, for example, if it needs to be longer or shorter, Rewrite will offer 3 different rewritten versions that can replace your work with something longer, shorter, more complex, more flowery, etc., etc. This is going to be on Windows 11 for insiders. And Microsoft Paint, which this one might actually be useful, is doing an AI implementation where you can select an area and add a prompt like, add a castle, and it will just, bloop, put a castle on top of the existing image. Now, this feature here, while I'm usually pretty protective of artists, this is something that's actually kind of useful if you wanted to sketch a quick image. You could save a lot of time by generating some wacky AI kind of stock assets and slapping them on there. This, I don't know, maybe I'm too much of an academic. This whole rewrite my work for me and redo it for me, I think is more of just a shortcut for, I don't want to have to think about things and I'm going to let the computer do my thinking for me. God, I actually sound like Homer complaining about the invention of mass-produced papyrus because he believed that writing things down was lazy and it would inspire the youth to not properly remember the oral epics of the past and instead just rely on this writing everything down. But it seems like a crutch that a lot of people lay on, and it feels really weird to me how everything is AI, like Notepad. I just use this to write down random stuff like, finish this video. Now I know, okay, so I've done all this stuff, now I need to finish the video. I don't need an AI to tell me to do that.
There has to be a point where they're like, okay, AI is not necessary for things. Like, we really do not need AI notepads, especially when you have other AI features like ChatGPT and all these other things. I do like that Paint feature though. That is pretty neat. But overall, it just seems like we're going to be bombarded with AI malware, and it's just crazy to me that we're moving in this direction.
Remember we were talking about the conspiracy around the hurricane stuff?
Yes.
Literally after we stopped filming it, I saw like 10 or so posts talking about this area in, I believe, North Carolina.
Okay.
That is one of the world's largest deposits of lithium.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
Like it would bring in so much money from America of producing batteries for electric cars, like all this stuff. And it's in a residential zone. And they've gone to these people supposedly and said, we'd like to purchase your land. And they all refused.
Are you kidding me?
And now that exact same spot is
Wiped out.
wiped out.
This is Maui all over again.
Maui
we
was
want
tied
the
to a
land.
smart city initiative too.
They said the amount of lithium there is like upwards of like $5 trillion plus.
Oh goodness gracious.
Like, I mean, it's lithium rich in this area that was wiped out.
And so now we have to keep an eye on that area because what the flip are they going to do there, dude?
Yeah.
People won't be able to afford to rebuild, and so if
Yeah.
someone can come in and cover like the remaining mortgage, families will go somewhere else and start over.
For anyone that lives in North Carolina where this event happened, I'm so sorry for your loss. And it's a tragedy. It's really scary to think what the government might do for whatever they want.
Y'all have got to watch this video taken by paranormal investigators. They actually didn't notice what they captured until they reviewed their footage. They had several night vision cameras set up across this house they were investigating. Just watch.
What's that beeping? That camera? I definitely thought I saw a shadow go by. No, on the camera. John at about 59:30 or 59 on the dot. I think I saw a shadow on the left hand side. Right down here.
The investigators are actually in another room when this camera captures what looks like a child come into this room or form into this room. Then the investigators talk about hearing beeping and then it quickly darts behind that wall. Then they captured whatever that was.
I kind of seen what looked to be like the child, but I don't know about this one. Let me know what you guys think. Did you see a ghost child or did you see no child?
Parents, y'all gotta keep your kids off YouTube. For the last 2 months, my son has been coming into my room anywhere from 9 to 11 o'clock at night, and he's crying, and he gives me a hug, and when I ask him what's wrong, he says, I just love you. And then he goes back to bed. It was happening like once or twice a week. It's always so weird. So I started thinking that he was sleepwalking because it's just out of Troy's character. But it's been happening like once or twice a week for like the last 2 months. This morning, we're eating breakfast, and he looks over at me, and he says, Mommy, can you happy? And I'm like, you, what? What? And he said, can you happy so I don't have to you? What? I said, you want me to? And he said, no, I don't, but the show said that you have to happy. And I'm like, what show? And he said, the dragon show. What? Now, he watches stuff like this. This is Netflix. I'm like, what dragon show? On what? Because I'm trying to pull it up. And he said on YouTube. Now, he's not supposed to be watching YouTube because the last time that he was allowed to watch YouTube Kids, there was a cartoon of a little boy that looks like Caillou that was telling my son to go run and jump in front of cars and get all of his friends to run and jump in front of the cars driving down the street. And so once I realized that that cartoon was legit telling him to go get his friends and they all wait until a car is coming and then they run in front of the car, I was like, oh no, you guys are done. And nobody has been allowed to watch YouTube since. So I didn't even know that they had access to YouTube on their TVs, their Roku TVs. I thought they only had Netflix, Hulu, and then like normal TV. But nope, he's been sneaking and watching YouTube, and whatever cartoon he's watching about dragons is telling him me. And instead of doing what they're saying, he comes in the room crying and hugs me and is just like, I just love you. That is insane.
I cannot stress enough to always monitor what they watch. For example, like my channel. Definitely not a kid-friendly channel. There's a lot of topics on here that are not meant for a young mind. And I would really hope that a parent would not just allow their kid to watch my content freely without their guidance at least. And that goes with other shows, even shows on YouTube Kids. There's some really bad shows on YouTube Kids that get away with being on YouTube Kids, and I don't know how. There's a show on YouTube Kids called Happy Little Tree Friends. If you're not familiar with it, that should be an adult show. It starts off like a cute little cartoon of little woodland creatures, but it gets extremely gory and violent. And the simple fact that that show's on YouTube Kids is pretty crazy to me. Know what they're capable of watching on all the devices that you have at home, because, like this lady said, she didn't even know her smart TV had YouTube. To me, that's common knowledge, but not everybody knows that. It's a scary world out there, and we definitely need to make sure we're not letting kids just watch these crazy things. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and end today's video. As always, if you enjoyed any of the clips that we watched today, links are in the description down below. And with that being said, have a good day.